this. She's like, why do you have me in the backyard? Guys, when he comes in my room at night, he just like never leaves. And that's an issue because he doesn't let me sleep. Like if I fall asleep, he will put me down, see his paws right on my neck, he'll meow at me, and do things like this. He doesn't let me sleep. But he's allowed to sleep. I'm not. Hello, welcome to a new vlog. Is this week the reset? Yes, this one is the reset, so I'm gonna have to find activities for us to do, but I want to go through the weekly TBR with y'all. Now, the weekly quote is, just wait. And may the odds be ever in your favor. Coming to us from Suzanne Collins. When I flipped the page and saw this, I was screaming. I love it. Y'all know I love Effie, so I loved getting this quote being the quote of the week. So may the odds be ever in your favor this week. I'm so energetic today, and I did pull the Page of Swords, and it says right here the Page of Swords is talkative, curious, mentally restless, energetic, and I'm like, yeah, that is me right now, and I just knocked stuff down. So let's go into the books that I'm reading this week. So this is what I am about to get into, which is Misbehaving at the Crossroads, Essays and Writings by Henri Fenton Jeffers. This one is, again, an essay collection. I read this in the morning, and it is all about what it is like to be a Black woman in the United States, historically speaking, and from the author's own experiences. Next, we have the one that is the main focus of the vlog, and that is The Power of the Dog by Dawn Winslow. This is a mystery, thriller, crime novel going into the early decades of the war on drugs. Mood read, and that is The Roanoke Girls by Amy Engel. This one is, again, a thriller, quite a short little thriller here. We have our character of Lane, who her mother commits suicide, and Lane has to go meet the family she's never met before, which live out in Osage Flats, Kansas, at a place called Roanoke. And things just aren't quite right there. Lane eventually, you know, leaves, grows up, and goes to Los Angeles. And one day she gets a call from her grandfather telling her that she needs to come home because her cousin Allegra has gone missing. So Lane goes back to Kansas to investigate the disappearance of her cousin. Lastly, we have my mood read, which I'm literally at my ebook that I'm literally at 99% of the way into, and that is Edge of Eternity by Ken Follett, book 3 in the Century Trilogy. We are at the fall of the Soviet Union in that book, and those are all of the books that I am going to be reading in this vlog. We might add some, because I might finish some of these. You never know what might happen. It is 4:47, so before I go in to edit this week's video, sit-down video, I'm going to go through the books that I've completed so far this month, and the ones that I'm unhauling, you know, I'm going to put my business card in, put a few goodies, stickers inside, and then those will eventually go to little free libraries. Next, the ones that I keep, I put my stamp in, and that's all. And we will put them on my bookshelf next week, you know, on the how many days? 30th of September. It is time to do the nightly update on The Power of the Dog. I got to 55%, that being 63 pages read, and brutal. Some of the scenes in this I will just be thinking about, like, later. I'll just be laying in bed and be like, I really just read that. Like, that was insane. Like, I'm just saying, the torture and all that the cartel does in this book, Narcos, the one, not Narcos Mexico, but just Narcos, doesn't go anywhere close. No, like, so dark, and probably the worst torture scenes I've ever read. No, it doesn't go like in as much detail as like Diana Gabaldon did in that one chapter. Y'all know the one. If you're a fan of Outlander or if you've seen the TV show, you know the episode. Like, it doesn't go in that much detail, but it's like implied for some of this stuff. And just this scene that I just read, wow, crazy. So something with one of the plots in this book, or one of the themes, is seeing the flaws in the system. Whether it be the US government and seeing how they're involved in all these other countries and doing it really just for their benefit. Next we have the church, religious institutions, and seeing just, again, money, capitalism is what runs this world, let me tell you, and just what the church will do to benefit the church rather than actually helping other people and understanding other people. And criminal organizations, the flaws in them, and just trying to take down all these constructs of, as I said, government, religion, and crime. That is a big theme here, trying to really analyze what these institutions are trying to do and what they do and how they are similar, crazy to think about, and how they can be taken down if they can be taken down. A popular quote kind of going in line with that is, must everything he wonders be sacrificed on the altar of capitalism? Next, Adon. Okay, with these characters, I think they are pretty shallow, especially, okay, everybody but Art. I think Art is developed. Arthur is his name, but Art's his nickname. Like Nora especially, I see being shallow. I'm like, what happened to her parents? What happened to her family when she got involved in this lifestyle of becoming a high-class prostitute? Like, what happened to everybody else? And I just wish there was a little more depth to the characters. But out of like the, what is it called? The Mexican Drug Federation, Adon is definitely like my favorite. I just think he is very layered, and I wish he was more of one of the main characters. Yeah. And as I said with like the torture scene that I just read, like I was not expecting it to go where it did, but like everything was adding up in my head. Like, this guy's like their best shot. This person, I'm like, oh, he might be here to kill this person. And then when all that is happening, I'm just like my jaw legit dropped. I was shook. And then a popular quote says that the hardest thing in the world isn't to refrain from committing an evil, it's to stand up and stop one. And that is so true. I talked about this with the Hunger Games. A lot of times, was it? I feel like there's another book as well where we are just seeing history happen in front of us, but it's like, what can I do about it? There's nothing I can do about it. And I think a lot of people think about this with Gaza and with Palestine. It is, we're looking at, and it's just like, what can I, just one person, do about that? And you're just seeing this history unfolding right in front of us, and it's feeling like you can't do anything. And yeah, that's for that. I'm trying to remember what book that was. I did write about it in a review. Like, I feel like it was The Hunger Games. I think it was The Hunger Games, especially the first book, but I could be mistaken. So those are my thoughts on The Power of the Dog. Yeah, 4-star vibes, because I do think there are just some issues, mainly that character work stuff that I talked about, but it is very good, very brutal, and it will have you feeling through it. Because yeah, this whole stuff today with these chapter 8, I was on the edge of my seat. The adrenaline, I didn't know what was going to happen. It is time to talk about The Power of the Dog. I got to like 64%, I think is what it was. I read 10%, which was 54 pages. So I do think I'm going to finish this book on Friday or Saturday in about, I know, in 4 days. And I think that'd be Saturday. But y'all know math is not my strongest suit, and I am so sleepy right now. Like, I have not had caffeine. I've only had water, and I'm like, I need the caffeine in my life. Like, I need it, but it's gonna be a while before I get it. But we're gonna go over my thoughts. So the first two are popular quotes. The first one, so a lot of this is like economic stuff, and for me, I'm just like, okay. but these are what, you know, people have been highlighting while they read this book. The Americans take a product that literally grows on trees and turn it into a valuable commodity. Without them, cocaine and marijuana would be like oranges, and instead of making billions smuggling it, I'd make pennies doing stoop labor in some California field picking it. So I think that's just picking and choosing between what is growing on your trees. Okay, and then our next one comes 2 pages later on page 309, and that says, he had observed the lessons of the Reagan Revolution. They can make more money by lowering taxes than by raising them, because the lower taxes allowed more entrepreneurs to come into the business and make more money and pay more taxes. And that makes me want to play City Skylines, because you do taxes in that game. I do have a computer. I have played it on my laptop, but the laptop will then make noises that, like, it sounds like it's about to take off like a helicopter. But okay, so my I almost said complaint, kind of a complaint, yeah, it's a complaint, is about the writing today, which the writing I would give a 3-star. And oh my gosh, why is my eye itchy? Okay, so the writing is, so we get back to Callahan's perspective, and we have not been with Callahan for a while, for several hundred pages, I would say. Maybe like, yeah, we're gonna say we haven't seen him for 100 pages. And so we're having like a flashback of what he's been doing in that time. And I'm like, why couldn't we just have, you know, like, if we're in chapter 9 right now, so why couldn't we split chapter 9 into however many parts, however many characters, you know, or POVs, be like, okay, Nora, Callahan, Adon, whatever, you know, going through a list of characters, rather than having to then go back in time, because I'm just like, I don't like that. I just think it would flow better if we just all went in a chronological order, rather than flashing back to be like, this is what Callahan was doing when all of this was going on, rather than, okay, leave that blank and just have him be where he is now. And then I'd be questioning, I'd be like, well, okay, what was he doing in that time? So I do think this, I wish it was in more of a chronological order, or just if it flowed better, if we had more time with each character, if each character got an equal amount of time, which has been something with my reading this month that I've realized I've been wanting. So that's all in the power of the dog. And I do want to say I finished Edge of Eternity. I do not have it in here, but the 3rd book in the Century Trilogy by Ken Follett. So we wrapped up the trilogy, and I did give the book a 5 out of 5, my second 5-star this year. That's an official full 5-star. And y'all know, for a long time I thought I was going to give the book a 4.75, because we would get with our political characters, George and Dimka, and we would just be with them forever, and I'd be wondering what the other characters were doing. And so, like, Ken Follett, he does that, like, really well, of how I was saying all the characters and flowing, but I would be wondering what was happening with the other characters. But then as I just got more and more invested into the story and the characters' lives as the book went on. And I think this book is very important, because just it shows how the tides turn in history of, this one's on top, then this one's on top, this one's this kind of government, this one's this kind of government, this kind of economy, this kind of economy, and how that's always changing, and just the ebb and flow of how politics and history are connected, and how those big political and historical events trickle down, you know, into our lives. So that is all for now. I'm probably gonna see y'all later, because I only have like 14 pages left in the Roanoke Girls. Hey guys, I just finished the Roanoke Girls, so I didn't really go over my notes for the 75% mark. So basically, I really just did not like the character of Lane. She thought she was better than everybody, very judgmental towards everybody else, and it makes sense why she would be filled with all this anger and hatred, but it wasn't enjoyable to read from. So yes, I did hate her. Then we had some theories of what was happening, and I think some of the themes, the 2 themes I picked up on is taking family for granted. So many of us who we think we are just really struggling and all, but no, there are people in a lot harder situations and with way worse family dynamics than you have. Just know that, even if you think you have it rough. Yeah. And then next is, which I do think with a lot of these kind of books where there's a monster who on the outside they don't appear to be a monster but can be, to be a creep, a pervert. A lot of the people you wouldn't expect them to be one. So there's that. And then just a vibe I get from this. This is like a twisted teen drama. This is not a young adult book. This is very dark and difficult themes. That's what I mean by saying twisted. But so much of it, when we would go back to like the flashbacks, would remind me of like those teen shows like One Tree Hill, Friday Night Lights. I haven't seen Friday Night Lights, but just the same like aesthetic of this small town in the West, you know, in Kansas. So there were like those kind of vibes of like 2000s, because I think it's in like 2004. Maybe I could be mistaken on that. Actually, I can look. Oh no, it doesn't have the year that Lane's mom died, but like that kind of vibe. But we're gonna go into Call Pal. So characters, I am going to give a 2. Yes, I did hate our main character, but it took me to like 75% to actually hate her, because at the start of the book, the first 25%, I didn't feel much towards her. 50%, I was just like feeling uneasy, and then 75%, I was like, yeah, I hate her for the reasons I said. Judgmental, thinks she's better than everybody, but it's understandable why she is that way, but it just wasn't enjoyable to read from. Now, with the atmosphere, as I told y'all, I get like the twisted teen drama vibe, but the atmosphere didn't overall play a huge part in the story. I am going to give that a 3. I'm thinking right here, looking at my notes that I have. Writing would be a 3 as well. I don't have strong thoughts on it. I don't know. This one, I actually do think the going back and forth between timelines, I do think that worked well in this story. The writing itself didn't wow me in any way, but it's not bad either. This is very accessible, easy to read, but again, subject matter is very rough. Do look up your trigger warnings, because with that, kind of going into the plot, it doesn't really say anything on here of what is actually so dark and twisted about this book, because there'd just be instances where I was like, wait, did I hear that right? Because I was doing the audiobook, and I'd be like, oh, we're going there. This went places that I just did not expect, and you do not really see in books a lot of the time. Now, I see it more on TV than I do in books, but it's just like, we went there. It's dark. Now, with the plot, as I said, we had those 2 themes, but none of that majorly stood out to me. I'm like, okay, like I didn't make those notes of the themes until the last 14 pages of the book, you know, so it wasn't too like in your face or anything, and just, I was bored at times. It felt like nothing was happening. Yeah, we're going into this investigation, but just not a whole lot is happening. So we're gonna give the plot a 3 as well. Intrigue, yeah, as I said, I was bored. It wasn't really doing anything. We'll give intrigue a 2. Now, the logic of, so I did not predict what happened to Allegra. I did not predict that at all. So there were some instances, like very small instances of some things being predictable, but when we get to the actual, you know, what happened, what was the point of this being a thriller, like the crime and everything, you know, the disappearance storyline, what is all going on there. I do think it makes sense, but you know, I think it would have been more interesting if it was something else. So we will give that a 3 as well. An enjoyment, we're gonna give a 2-star, because I didn't hate it, but it didn't really do anything for me either. So we're going to do the math here and see where we get with this Call Pal. So we have 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2 is a 15. Divide that by 7. This gets a 2.14. That is actually really low. But yeah, this book didn't do a whole lot for me. So I think this goes in as a 2.25, because this is 9 away from a 25 and 14 away from a 2. So a 2.25, so no, I wouldn't recommend this book. So I also want to talk about that I did, y'all know I finished Edge of Eternity, so I will be starting a new ebook at, you know, later tonight. And it's going to be a classic. It's going to be 1984, and I am going to be following along with the audiobook as well, which, like, there's a lot of famous people on the narration of it. So what is 1984 about? I have read a graphic novel of this, but I've never, oh my gosh, I just hit my nail on the desk, that hurt. Okay, but I've never read the, you know, the novel. It says war is peace, freedom is slavery, and Big Brother is always watching. Kind of reminds me of the Hunger Games there, but this is like the dystopian book. George Orwell's classic novel 1984 is the story of one man's nightmare odyssey through a world ruled by warring states and a power structure that controls not only information but also individual thought and memory. A minor functionary named Winston Smith joins a covert brotherhood and pursues a forbidden love affair against the cold gray backdrop of the Republic of Oceania, only to become a hunted enemy of the state and of Big Brother. Now more than half a century after it was written, Orwell's prophetic, haunting tale of conformity, repression, and identity strikes a disturbing chord as we follow Winston Smith through his rebellion, imprisonment, torture, and re-education. We witness firsthand the destruction of the truths and freedoms that make us who we are, and the creation of a world where black is white, 2 + 2 = 5, and evil is good. Oh, that sounds so much like the world we live in, where just nothing makes sense. So this, I was actually able to get the ebook for free, so that is awesome when you're able to, you know, get something for free. So I do have this though to, when I talk about it in the vlog, y'all can see what I'm talking about. Happy Wednesday. I just completed Misbehaving at the Crossroads by Henri Fenton Jeffers. I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. I strongly recommend this. I do have some final notes with y'all to talk about. So I just want to say, get the negatives out the way. So why is this a 4 and not a 5-star? And I should say, with my like nonfiction and essay collections and all that, I don't do decimal ratings unless there are some circumstances where I will, but for the most part, I can do it by whole numbers. So this is a 4 out of 5. So this is a great book, but it's not the best book I've ever read by her. So, and this was my introduction to her nonfiction books. Just at some instances with the writing, I got really confused by the flow, and I had a hard time following some of the essays. So that was my complaint, was just especially those early on ones and ones about her personal life and ancestors. Those were the ones where I would get really confused. Now we do have a family tree at the start of the book. It's like this, which for my visual mind, this is very hard for me to comprehend, that I cannot really understand this kind of tree very well. So that's just a me thing, and maybe if you're a visual minded person, you might struggle a little bit with that. But I do want to just go into some of the final notes that I took on the book, and it's really that history is a facade or a shell, and I don't want people to think that that is, I'm seeing, if I put this book right there, will y'all be able to see it? Please don't fall. So history being a facade, and I don't really think, like when you learn about history in school, I don't think it's intentional by teachers to or, you know, every teacher is different, so it could be different for every teacher. I don't think that they mean to leave out certain parts, because that is how they were taught it and taught to teach it. That, and I do think in school you're given like a very surface level understanding of something. Then if it's something you're interested in, you're supposed to go research it later. At least this is just my understanding of when I've been sitting here thinking about this book and thinking of how I'm going to review it. But it is a facade. You're taught it one way, and you're taught it at a surface level, and you're not really going down deeper. And I think a lot of people, I know a lot of people who don't really, I was in a sword, they don't really care about history, and they think it's boring, and they don't really go to dig into those layers that are underneath. So therefore they don't know the full story that is history. And something with that is how people's ideology, sorry, has changed, because when this country is, you know, it's equality and freedom for everyone. That's like what America was founded on. But those people who founded the country, who they view as people, is not right and not how we view people today. These were, we're assuming, straight white men who founded this country. They were thinking of themselves and other straight white men. They saw anybody, think people, black and brown people, women, all those people being less than. And I need to mute my phone because it's going off and that will distract me. Okay, so all those people who are not straight white men, they were not seen as being equals to straight white men. So those straight white men, that was the top. That is who is all created equally, if we're going back to what this country was founded on. They did not view all those other people as being equals. So with that, countries and governments should evolve with time. Everything needs to evolve with time. So therefore, we have seen women, black and brown people getting the right to vote, getting the right to own land, having the same jobs as white men, but still there is going to be a delay. And this is what a lot of people, and I didn't really get a full understanding of, and obviously I'm still learning until this year, that a lot of people are left behind because they did not have the same rights that these straight white men have had since the 1600s and probably before that. But you know, going back hundreds of years, everybody else really didn't get rights until the 1900s, and those rights are still evolving because, I mean, it hasn't been that long. It has only been, you know, like, you know, 100 years and less that everybody else has basically had the same rights as white men have. And that it is, so a lot of people don't realize, there's like, okay, you have those rights. Why aren't you equal with us? Why are you complaining? The white men have had all that time to grow wealth and to get power and to get positions of high rank when everybody else hasn't had that. They've only had 100 years, less than that in most cases, when, again, the white men have had 500 years to do that, you know. And I'm just saying in America because obviously we can't go back to the old world and that can stem thousands of years, you know, but I'm talking about the United States. So systematically some people are left behind and basically set up for failure. And now we have Honoré Fannin Jeffers, who is looking at this from the viewpoint of black women. So that's already two things against them, you know, being black, being a woman. Both of those groups of people, black people and women, did not have rights until the last century, you know, and it's something that's still getting planted, you know, because it could be legally, but like legally, like there's a law saying, okay, you have the same rights, you can vote, you can do, you know, all of this. But is it still, you know, it's still being planted. And again, because they just got those rights, it's something that is still, you know, developing and growing. And so we're seeing it from her own personal experiences, and then just historically speaking of looking at people going back to those days of when this land was colonized all the way up to the modern day. So this book was extremely eye-opening to realizing things that should be so obvious, of how, yes, it sounds so nice hearing about how this country was created for religious freedom, freedom for all. And then when you look at it, it's just like, was it really? What did those founding fathers view as all? Who did they view being equal? Who deserved that freedom? It wasn't really for all, because they did not view those other people as people. So it's that's something that should be so obvious, but you never really think about it. So let's see what else. And you can definitely tell that Honoré Fannin Jeffers is definitely a professor, because she makes these things that are really hard topics and things that should be obvious, but she makes it so easy to understand and to give you that light bulb moment. I know a lot of teachers, that something that they love, their favorite part about teaching is seeing that student have the light bulb moment. And I think this book's going to do that for a lot of people and make people realize, being like, oh my gosh, and just putting words to things that you've noticed and it's just so powerful when somebody can do that and has the ability to educate others. I just think that's so powerful and impactful. And speaking of, that's making me emotional thinking about, is that this book will make you feel all the emotions. It will make you feel anger. It will make you happy. It will make you sad. It will make you feel bittersweet, especially those last few chapters made me feel so bittersweet, and I was really emotional finishing it, just seeing her relationship with her mother and how it has grown, and how all the lives before her, the ancestors, shaped that relationship and shaped who she is as a person. And I just think that's so beautiful. And as I said, bittersweet, that people have to go through all these traumatic and poverty, you know, all these different things to get to shape life and shape what the world is, you know. And so is that everything? Yeah, I think that's everything that I'm going to leave here. So yes, this is a very powerful book, but at times I did struggle following certain essays and whatnot, but I do think this is a really great, powerful book, impactful, and yes, I would recommend that you pick it up. Do that book haul where I log the books into Goodreads. I put them on my list of books that I've hauled, because one day I might do a thing where it's like a number generator. So that is what I'm going to do, but we're not going to put them on the shelves yet because I have not filmed the haul, which I will film that on Monday, so y'all aren't going to see that till next week. Kind of spoiler. Since I did film that one clip in the other room, the camera's at a different spot. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing it's at a different spot, but I'm not going to move it since I'm already recording. So I did, y'all know I finished the Roanoke Girls yesterday. I don't want to start another mood read with, you know, so few days left in the month. So I'm just going to focus on like my main TBR with the power of the dog, like continuing that into the 9 o'clock hour. So that's what I did tonight. I got to 76%, and I need to write down that I read The Power of the Dog. I read 67 pages, so I've read 77 pages in total today so far, and I am going to go through my notes over here, if it will load. I totally forgot to do the ... at where I started today. So we have characters who I would have considered my favorite characters. I don't think I've mentioned this character in the vlog as being a favorite character, but as soon as something bad started happening to him, I didn't really care. So that makes me realize that I do not have an emotional connection to these characters. But yeah, we had this big cartel shootout, and then Raul's like, come on everyone, we have a plane to catch, come on, like, and it's a commercial flight, like it's in Aeromexico, and I'm like, they just went all, like, the shootout was at the airport. That shows you the pre-9/11 world, right? And then the next point is how I think the character work is kind of shallow. I think there's just a lack of character building, especially we had this character of Nora, who we're introduced to her. She is a teenager, you know, going to school, living the normal, you know, teenage life in like the 70s in California. She's really like a beach girl, you know, the blonde hair, everything like that. And suddenly she is being, I would say molested. I don't know if that's the right word, but sexually harassed, and that is what gets her involved, because she realizes that with sex you can have power, whatever. So she realizes that, and then so, you know, she starts going on trips with these men. And I cut my bangs the other day. Well, at first it was before I even cut my bangs. They just did, I didn't like how they were sitting on my face, so I cut them thinking they were too long, and now like the strands are just all over the place. But okay, back to Nora. So Nora and starts going on trips with these guys and all, and then she meets Haley, and Haley is like a madam and hooks her up with her like call girl company. And we never really see the building of her being introduced to this world of sex work, to being the top of the pyramid, you know, top of the ladder of the call girl world, and she's like the best that you can get it. And we never see really how all that builds there. So it's like, okay, she's hot, she's at the top. Like, there's not a lot of building. I think Art is the character who is definitely the most developed, and I would even put Callahan up there as well, but everybody else, I think it's pretty shallow on the character building. So that's all that I have to talk about there. So y'all know I did start 1984, and I got the audiobook because I was originally going to read this book last year, and I just was, I didn't get to it, essentially. So I got to 6% 1984 last night, and that was on the Kindle. So I had the audiobook already from when I was going to read it last year, and it was the one with Andrew Garfield, Cynthia, I don't know how to say her last name, Andrew Scott, is that a guy? Tom Hardy, they're all on the audiobook. So, you know, it has a celebrity cast. So I was like, okay, cool, it's a multi-cast narration where they, like, Andrew will play Winston, Cynthia will play Julia, Andrew will play O'Brien, and Tom will play Big Brother. So I just thought they would read the lines for, you know, those characters. So I get into the audiobook, and it's saying like brought to you by Audible and all that, the typical stuff, you know, that you would get at the start of an audiobook. But then so I like to read in tandem, so I will physically be reading the words and listening at the same time. And it starts playing, and the words are not matching up with what's on the on my copy of the book. So I was like, maybe it's because it's a classic and there's different translations, even though this is more of a modern classic because it was published in 1949. I was like, this is very strange. So I went, and y'all know I even have a physical copy over here, and looked, and I was like, okay, that is the same as the writing that's on the ebook. So I turned the audiobook off, because that is what ruined my reading experience, because I'm listening to it, so I was like, okay, maybe I need to click part 1, because this whole instance was completely different than what was happening in the book. So I go to part 1, and it was like listening to a movie without seeing the pictures, because we are like in the character's shoes. So you have not Andrew, but that's who's playing him. You have Winston, and he's looking at the clock. And in the book, the book starts out, it's a cold April day, and the clock strikes 13 or something. But rather in the audiobook, it was, I see the clock is at 13 o'clock. And like, you know, it's like him talking about what he's seeing rather than it straight up saying. And that is not made, that audiobook is not made if you're looking to read in tandem. It is not. Like, it's making me angry thinking about it, because I'm pretty sure I spent money on it, but I'm not sure, since it's an Audible original. I don't know if it came with my subscription or not. But so it's a very cold open, the first chapter of 1984 anyway, and I just feel so confused. And I thought maybe I was just, you know, can't think of the word, if it was just because the audiobook experience had me feeling flustered, that I wasn't really, so like the first chapter, I'm like, okay, we're seeing how brainwashed this society is, and we're seeing how strict it is, and how much in the people, in the citizens' lives that this government is. So that's my understanding, but I still just felt so confused by what was happening, and feel like I was thrown just right into this world, and I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I wish that I had the audiobook where they're just straight up reading the book, which there is one, but you have to pay for it, and I'm not going to pay for it when I've already paid for one thing and it's not what I wanted. And y'all might be like, okay, it says it's an Audible original, it says it's an Audible, only an Audible. I have other books that say the same thing, when usually there's a celebrity cast or a celebrity narrator. And in those, I'm thinking The Great Gatsby, I'm thinking Pride and Prejudice. There's a few others, but those are the two that really come to mind, that when I bought those or downloaded them or whatever, it was a plain, you know, audiobook, like they're just reading the book. So that's what I thought this was going to be. And when it says, you know, Audible original, only available at Audible, I thought, okay, I can only get this version of this audiobook at Audible. I can't get Jake Gyllenhaal narrating The Great Gatsby at Spotify. I can only get it at Audible. So that is what my understanding was when I downloaded 1984, but that's not the case. And in the 1984, so as I said, it's a multicast. We also have background music, special like sound effects, all of that, which I do have other audiobooks that do that, but the words in those audiobooks are not different than the words that are in the actual book. So I really don't like that. And I think this is a thing that Audible's now doing. I saw one with what was his name? Was it Caleb McLaughlin from Stranger Things? I think he's doing one. Yeah, these are all great actors. Don't think I'm hating on the actors or directors or anything. I just think that it's false advertising. Like, why is this listed as an audiobook and of a book when it's not going to be the exact text that's in the book, you know? So there's my rant about 1980. It's legit so hot in here. It's Thursday, but 90 degrees right now. Like, no, that's outside, to let y'all know. And it is September 25th. So I am like burning up. Yeah, so I set the AC on 70. Yeah, I usually am not the one to mess with that, but I had to do it because I feel like a hot mess. But I'm here to explain what I'm about to do. I'm about to do the sheet that will be my Kindle cover. Like, I slide into my Kindle cover for October. So we're going spooky, we're going fall. I do have spooky stickers. So we are going to go work on that backdrop. Now it is, oh my gosh, I almost fell. I just feel so sticky and gross. It's now 82 degrees, but yeah, why it's so hot is because of where my room is located. I'm getting all the afternoon sun. I'm getting the sun when it's at its hottest point in the day. And also I want to say, when I complain on here, most of the time I'm just venting. I'm not asking for advice or anything. And yeah, stuff is falling because also Bud jumped up on my desk when I was playing Sims earlier. Knocked down my speakers, knocked down a bunch of stuff. Yeah, we can't have nice things, can we? Especially on Thursdays. So here's what my old, this was the September spread for my Kindle, and now we have the October one. I went for like a witchy theme. That's what I've just been into, and I have been listening to my witchy playlist. Not my playlist, I didn't make it, but this one on Spotify. So I'm pulling up my notes on Power of the Dog now. I think I should finish tomorrow because I got to 89% of the way today. And yes, just so many of these missions today were so intense to read. And like the torture scenes will always make my jaw drop because this is like the darkest torture that I've ever read. The cartel does not mess around. Like, I think we know that in general, like the cartel doesn't mess around, but like reading it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so brutal. So then I had a theory about our girl Nora. It didn't come true, but I'm not going to say what it was. And then our last note of the day is a popular quote. It says, a professional liar knows that the key is not to make his lies look like the truth, but to make his truth look like lies. Now, I've never heard that before because in so many books and shows I watch, people are always like, you want to stick as close to the truth as possible when you're telling a lie. And yeah, I've actually had people when because I mean, I do have some outrageous stories in my life where people have straight up told me, I don't believe that. And I'm like, what do you want me to say is true? I am a very honest person. What if y'all all think I'm lying right now because I read this quote? But yeah, I'm a very honest person. I don't really see a point in lying, especially with like the crazy things like that. I guess people would think I'd be bragging or something like that. I don't even remember what the exact story was, but I was just like shook that somebody would think that I was lying to them. Yeah, so those are the notes from the Power of the Dog for the week. Oh, I need to actually put in the physical copy where we got to. We need to do that so I can show y'all what that looks like, and then we'll go into the weekly wrap up and everything. So we got a 484 in here. So we do have less than 100 pages. I do think I will be able to finish tomorrow. That's what we have left, and that's the amount that we've read of the Power of the Dog. Okay, so let's go through those weekly stats. I've completed 3 books this week, so I am super pleased with that because I have been having weeks where if I'm lucky, I finish one book. Yeah, like all the weeks previously this month, I'll finish one at the most. Like, okay, last week I finished the one, the week before two, and the week before that, none. So I am very happy that I completed 3 books so far this week, and it looks like I'll finish another. So that's super exciting. But only 2 days this week I read over 100 pages, that being Monday and Tuesday. Yesterday I only read 87, and today it looks like it's going to be another day around, you know, somewhere in the 70s or 80s. I did not haul any books this week. How many? I think I'm allowed to haul, I've hauled 5, and I'm allowed to haul 13 books this month. So is that like 8 more books? Yeah, 8 books. I can haul 8 more books this week, month. I don't think I'm going to do that. The past like 2 months I haven't hauled as many books as I am permitted to, so that's, you know, nice that I'm not spending a crazy amount of money, because the majority of books I do get secondhand for free or for like $1. So that is very nice. I'm not spending, you know, like 30 bucks on a hardback. So that's all. The theme for next week's vlog, I actually do not know, because that'll be our first October vlog. So, oh, next month is Vlogtober. We're going to be doing daily vlogs. So actually, yeah, I'm just going to be doing a vlog every single day for y'all, except Tuesdays. Those will be my sit-down videos, but all the other days, I'm gonna be straight up vlogging for y'all every single day. So stay tuned. We're gonna have some mystical stuff, tarot readings, talks about dreams, and all of that kind of stuff. That's gonna be a lot of fun. We will be reading. I don't know what book I'm going to be reading, honestly, by the time we get there. It's probably gonna be The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. Is that the name of the author? I'm blinking because I haven't filmed my TBR video yet, but that will most likely be what we will be reading in the next vlog that you see. So yeah, this is crazy. I totally forgot about Vlogtober, so stay tuned for that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you made it all the way through, leave a leaf emoji in the comments below, and as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.